want to talk about deals. Some of the deals being signed at this summit, and that is an agreement between Fireblocks and Emirates NBD. And so, Michael, why don't you start with your thoughts on how big the deal is and ultimately how you're going to get involved.
Yeah, sure. So we started working last year. We signed the agreement at this summit exactly a year ago, and we've been working on this partnership for the last 12 months. And clearly, which was basically an innovation agreement between us and Emirates, and the entire idea over there was really to work in the lab environment, create new financial products on the blockchain, create new innovative ideas, and basically foster them until we will be able to get them into production.
I mean, Pedro, Emirates NBD is Dubai's largest bank. They have been trying to push new ideas on several fronts. The digital offering, nascent. This is an important step to moving the ship forward, isn't it?
Hello, good afternoon. Excellent question, thank you. Look, this is a new space, a new frontier for many institutions, financial institutions around the world, and so is the case for us as well. We partnered with Fireblocks. We have other partners there as well, R3. Yesterday we signed Chainalysis. We have PwC, so there's a digital assets lab that we have put together, and these are the core founding members of this digital lab. The idea is for us to explore and ideate on how we're going to go about developing new offerings in the digital assets market, right? And we have been working with Fireblocks in particular over the last 1 year. There's various work streams that we have underway. We're also working with the regulator at the same time, and we will be definitely exploring new opportunities in this space.
I mean, the digital transformation is something you're putting in a billion dirhams, and there's still more to come going forward. Michael, in terms of the spectrum of tokenization of assets, and that has been a gradual process as well. You've kind of been in the front lines of that. What else could come late 2024 in terms of making use of tokens that represent smart contracts?
Yeah, so maybe just to give a bit of a, I think, a bit of a short history, right, in terms of what is actually working right now and what we've been seeing that actually achieved product market fit. So although not everybody kind of thinking about it this way, but actually the most successful tokenized product right now in the market is clearly the stablecoin, right? So we have about $120 billion of stablecoin that is currently issued and in circulation with quite significant volumes. So just to give you some idea, historically, like since the inception of Fireblocks to date, there was about almost $6 trillion that was moved through our platform. At this, and we are now at a run rate of about $1 trillion that is basically being transferred through our platform, and about 50 to 60% of it right now is actually stablecoin, right? And this is still like probably 15-20% of what's happening in the market. And this is predominantly being used across a bunch of use cases we can touch on later. But it's important to understand that basically tokenized money or digital money is probably the most important infrastructure, or programmable money, the most important infrastructure to start actually working with tokenization. The next thing that we are basically seeing as being extremely successful and really picking up are tokenized money market funds. So in the last year or so, we've seen this market, again, still not at the size of stablecoin market, but just like in 12 months, it went from 0 to over $1 billion of issued tokenized money market funds on chain. Initially, it was Franklin Templeton with their Benji token. Then there was a few other smaller issuers, basically startups like Hashnode and Ondo and so on. And last month, the BlackRock basically issued a tokenized money market fund that literally in 2 weeks went from $0 to $300 million in circulation. We've been partnering with Securitize on that project to enable BlackRock to do that. So this is where we've been seeing some pretty significant product market fit. Now, clearly, as we're seeing what will come towards the end of the year and maybe like, mostly 2025, people are looking to tokenize a lot of different things and a lot of different financial instruments that, Pedro, you probably want to touch on that.
I mean, I'll build on what else can get tokenized in a moment, but I want to get a view as well from Pedro on issuing bonds on the blockchain and how that might show up in an Emirates NBD, I guess, digital app product offering. Bonds, whatever it is, maybe even a green bond, what is your reaction to that?
Very good. So first of all, let me just say that this week we are announcing also fractional bonds on our NBDX mobile banking app. So customers, investors, our clients can invest on bonds with an entry point of about $25,000 as opposed to the normal $200,000 entry point that is there, right, for this type of asset class, right? So that will make bonds available to a lot more consumers and investors in the country, and this has been announced or is being announced today officially, right? Now, when it comes to other asset classes, I completely agree with Michael. I mean, there's a whole range of opportunities, and we, like many others, are quite excited with the possibilities around the different asset classes that can be tokenized. Money market funds is one of them, but there's many others, right? Bonds, yes, we issued a green bond last year around the same time as COP28, October, I believe it was. $750 million. It was the largest green bond ever issued from this part of the world. And yes, we will be looking at how to tokenize it and make it accessible to the population as one of the experiments, as one of the experiments that we will do with our digital assets lab. There are many other opportunities when it comes to tokenization, as you know, and there are many other classes that are actually suitable to do that. And we believe there will be a lot of demand for these in the next 5 to 10 years. There will be a huge shift from traditional instruments, for instance, the likes of mutual funds and others, to these new instruments that will democratize, these capital market asset classes.
Michael, in terms of what we've seen in the form of successful green bond issuances on the chain, I mean, there's that initiative from ABN AMRO, but is that something that you'd say sets a standard, or is there something else that we can learn from?
So the ABN AMRO example, they were specifically targeting and they created an infrastructure for, they call it like small, medium businesses, right? But basically to use this technology to significantly reduce the cost of issuance. And that was successful, and they are looking to expand and scale that activity, and specifically to move that activity from their innovation arm or from the lab to basically to be used by the business, because they definitely were able to go and engage with clients that couldn't come to the issuance platform before that. I mean, honestly, like, it seems to be that bonds are a pretty successful vehicle or a pretty successful asset class for tokenization. I think, like, it's simple enough. In some markets, there are decent inefficiencies in which that can be corrected and improved. And it's also like an asset that is quite well understood, right? So for the consumers and for the buyers, they can participate in that market. So on that front, yes, in terms of tokenized green bonds, we do see quite a lot of activity. Mainly, I would say, from startups that have been active in this, it's not always like green bonds. So for example, tokenized carbon credits is actually a pretty big thing, and we are seeing both startups and big players coming in. Again, blockchain and digital assets solve a pretty significant problem over there of transparency, tracking. There is a lot of complexities in the carbon credit economy in terms of how it should be done properly in order not to have certain aspects and fraud, and that that what is basically issued, how do you track it, how do you retire it, and so on. And that is transparency is actually a pretty good property of public blockchains. So we're actually seeing quite a lot of activity on that front as well. So there is quite a few different use cases as relates to green initiatives where public blockchains and blockchains in general can help with.
It also goes back to sort of the regulatory framework and the gap that exists in certain jurisdictions. When it comes to Dubai, Pedro, I mean, what is your journey been like? Because you're not just carving new ground for the bank in the space, but it's really the whole industry for the UAE that is trying to find the right path and the right middle ground of not regulating too much, but also making sure that the right safeguards are there.
Indeed. Look, we feel very, very blessed because in Dubai and the UAE, the regulator, so FARA is one of the first, or the first digital assets regulator, I think, around the world, right? And I mean, we are working hand in hand with FARA on how to go about these new products and new offerings, right? And we see a very, we see very good collaboration with the various parties. We are also engaged with other partners, which are, part of this, let's say, consortium that is working on these various aspects, right, of the regulation. They need to go hand in hand, but I think, these things will take time. We need to protect consumers. We need to protect the banks, the entities that are going to offer these new products. So we will be very prudent about how we're going to go about this. But let me tell you, my personal opinion, so blockchain is in its 1.0 phase, right? Much like the web was in the early 2000s, was in the web 1.0, right? And I think right now we see blockchain 1.0. The first products, the first experiments, the first tryouts are coming to life. There are payments which I'm sure Michael will cover, which Fireblocks is enabling, and so on. There's lots of things happening, but there's a whole new space for blockchain 2.0 and 3.0 to come in the next decade. This is really a transformational force, which is like a second internet, and we need to embrace it, and we need to work all together to extract the benefits from it, really.
Michael, I saw you wanted to weigh in on the regulatory angle.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that on a global scale, definitely Dubai, the UAE, been leading the charge right now. And when you sort of like in a way on which regulators are the most, I think, competent, both both intellectually and the ability to actually execute, VAR, DGM, generally speaking, like, you know, they are at the top right now. And there are, and I think, like, you know, they actually were able to front run a few others that we've seen a few years ago being maybe, like, you know, the most advanced jurisdictions, which I think is good. I think that they do put a lot of emphasis, like locally over here, they do put a lot of emphasis on the soundness and safety, and really making sure that the licenses are being granted and supervised properly. So it's really good. On the global scale, we're definitely seeing quite a lot of positive momentum. So in Europe, we have MiCA, that is a regulation that is now being implemented across the different European countries. It already passed, like, on the European Union level, and now it's currently being implemented. So that really gives pretty solid framework, you know, for companies to operate across the continent. You know, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, Australia, those are also quite good regulation. Brazil, they have a very advanced regulation as well. So, but still, probably I don't need to tell most of the people over here, we're seeing huge influx of companies worldwide coming over here because of the regulatory framework, because there is an anticipation that this will continue to be kind of the most advanced regulation, and also kind of setting the standards for others to follow, what we call internally the regulatory waterfall. So basically you have the top regulators that are setting the standards, and then other regulators globally adopting it. And I guess last but not least, you know, coming from New York, unfortunately over there we still have a lot of instability and lack of clarity in terms of what's going on, but, you know, we are optimistic.
So how much more are you going to grow here in the region?
So we have pretty big ambitions over here. We set up, we've been active in this region for already several years. We set up an office here that I think it's like right now in the final stages of all the different setups. And we have quite a few people that are been present here. And right now we have almost close to 100 clients that we are working in this region, and we think that there is an opportunity to continue to grow with the amount of business that is both organically is being set up over here, and businesses that are basically relocating globally into the region, into Dubai. I think also that we are quite optimistic that some of the neighboring countries will start adopting the frameworks in 2020, like later this year, and 2025, and we hope that we will be able to service them from our center over here.
Pedro, in terms of CBDC and the e-dirham and some of the other initiatives that were put forth, they took the first step. But how likely is it to become mainstream? What are you hearing from your sources? What's happening in the meeting rooms at the moment?
Very good. So, look, stable coins, the e-dirham. Let's talk about the e-dirham for a moment. It's like all other, leading countries who are paving the way for the future of finance, right? And the UAE and the central bank, in the occasion of the central bank's 50th anniversary, right? The first e-dirham was issued here in the country, and there was a transfer that was done from the UAE to the Bank of China, about 50 million dirhams equivalent, if I remember. And that was officially the first transfer of e-dirham in the country. That's a landmark and a milestone for the country and for the industry, really. Now, we expect this to continue. This is almost like an unstoppable force. It will happen all over the world. I mean, some countries will take the lead, like the UAE, much like because of the friendly and progressive regulation. So having progressive regulators helps a lot in this space, obviously. And again, we are lucky and blessed to have those regulators and those partners that want to make this happen. But this, in our view, will happen progressively all over the world. It's just going to be unstoppable.
If I wanted to trade crypto right now on an Emirates NBD app, am I able to do that?
No, you cannot.
When does that change? Because I can use another broker, I'm not going to say names right now, but I know of other brokers that I can just install and get going and trade crypto products. What's the holdup at Emirates NBD on that front? Is it the regulatory or is it the bank? I mean, it would seem like an easy win almost for that to get unlocked.
Yes, Yousef. So let me answer that question this way. We will, be offering those digital assets as and when we feel all the conditions are met for these transactions to be absolutely secured, right? And we are taking precautions, we are making some progress, but we want to feel confident and secure, and at some point, if those conditions are gathered, we will eventually do it. But I'm not in a position today to confirm or deny that we'll be offering digital assets.
In terms of other countries that have had success with CBDC, and I want to lean on you here, Michael, again, because you have been jet-setting around the world, you've been seeing what kind of ideas are springing to life. What's caught your attention that you think is worth sharing here?
Yeah, so I think before we jump into the CBDC, I think that just going back to the stablecoins, I do think that there is a lot of activity globally we're seeing around payments, and generally speaking, we're seeing a lot of players right now, especially on the payment, on the PSP, on the payment service provider side, including, by the way, some pilots that Visa is running, WorldPay is running, and a lot of those use cases are really looking into enabling use cases that are specifically cross-border transfers that, as you can all appreciate, this is really painful right now to execute through traditional rails. And that's both on merchant settlements, so really how you can deliver the money to the merchant much faster, and also payouts to individuals, right? So think about kind of Airbnb experience, and how the host can basically get push of the payment when they let's say subleasing their apartment. So a lot of those use cases you start to look globally, and there is a lot of momentum around applying that. Then on the CBDC front, we are seeing quite a few countries that have experimented with CBDCs. So Australia comes to mind. We've been involved in the project over there. They've done a CBDC pilot. We are seeing a pretty strong momentum in Brazil. So Brazil is pretty serious. They actually had a target to launch their wholesale CBDC platform by the end of this year.
They're the most successful?
I said that the most aggressive.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
Would you say it's successful from a structural and technical view, or would you just say they're pushing ahead regardless of the cost?
I think the issues over there, I would say, are less the cost. The issues over there are on the technical domain. So they actually were able to sort out most of the technology, especially as it comes to the wholesale. I do think that they have actually some ideas and requirements how to take it towards the retail, right? Which is interesting. And specifically, if we focus on this, on that project, basically the biggest component over there, which is still unsolved and is slightly delaying the project, is the pseudo-anonymity, or basically like the secrecy component in terms of exposing CBDC to the retail, right? So if both of us are doing a transaction, someone that is looking at the blockchain is unable to figure out either we did the transaction or what it was, at least like, the amount of the transaction. And by the way, the interesting fact over there is that from a proof of concept and technical, just like kind of theoretical technical aspect, that was solved, but right now there is some performance challenge to actually do it at the scale that they need. Like, with all due respect, like, Brazil is like, I don't remember, like 300 million people, something. Quite a big country. So they need to really sort it out at scale, and there are some performance around the privacy component, which they working through. So, and there is a bunch of good partners over there like Microsoft and so on that are working on that challenge. So I assume that probably in 2025 this will go through. But they are committed. They like made big promises over there, just like, from the chair of the central bank all the way down.
I mean, speaking of scale, Pedro, when you look at the data internally, and when you look at what your app and what your sort of digital portfolio is going to come up with, can you quantify for us what the demand story looks like? I mean, either in a nominal figure, and if you can't speak to a nominal figure, because again, so many people have come to Dubai, right?
Right.
So that would be fascinating to know, or what kind of growth you're anticipating over the next year or two.
Look, there are many research papers around these, right? There's a recent one from BCG, and this is not specifically on the capital markets and digitizing the capital markets traditional investment classes, right, or assets. This is more on the real world assets, which we need to add to this equation here as well. They talk about $16 trillion of opportunity of such assets that can be tokenized by 2030, right? This is at global scale, right? So this gives you a sense of the size and the magnitude of the opportunity globally, right? In other words, it's sizable, right? Now you add into that the traditional investment classes, like we discussed, bonds, money market funds, and all the rest, right? And you're talking trillions of dollars that are going to be on demand to be tokenized. Now there are various aspects to this, right? One aspect is speed, right? The speed at which you can trade these new instruments on the blockchain, right? It's basically instant. The settlement, instant, right? The cost, reduced. Why? Because there are less intermediaries there, right? So if you combine, higher speed, less friction, less cost, there will be demand, significant demand for this type of instruments in years to come. Now, there's one more element here that I want to bring up, right? Which is the fact that new generations are looking into alternative investments much more than the previous generations, right? Tokenized assets is going to be one of them. So we expect the demand to grow in years to come. Certainly in the next 10 years, things will change quite dramatically in this space. This is what we can comment about.
All right, that's a strong note to wrap up on. Thank you very much for all the splendid insights, and yeah, still much more to come. And thank you as well.